Hello, everyone. Pam Gregory and I, Kathy Rose, are here to talk to you about the astrology patterns of 2024. And I'm so happy that you're doing this with me, Pam. It's such a great joy to always work with you.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We've been in the trenches together, Kathy, I think it's fair to say, and we've known each other for some time, and it's always so stimulating, inspiring, and yes, absolutely joyful to spend time with you. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
And we have a whole lot to cover. We're going to cover an entire year of high activity.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to go at such speed. I think that's one of the big things about next year, 2024. It's going to go lickety split, so we have to be aware of that.
And, to start this off, let me just say Pam's specialty is mundane astrology, applying this to the world and applying this to the evolutionary pattern of humans. And Pam, what is your website? Can you just tell people, even
Yeah,
though
it's
you're
just
all over the internet?
Thank you. It's just pamgregory.com. Pamgregory.com, you'll find everything there. All my YouTube videos get uploaded there as well. My YouTube is Pam Gregory Astrology, and yeah, very busy.
And for those who don't know, Pam does have tutorial videos on her website. She has two books, so go explore it. I'm sure most people know you by now, though, but she has a whole lot to offer. And my website is roseastrology.com. I do private consultations for clients nearly 7 days a week, usually 6 days a week. And I also teach with Astrology University and Kepler College. But we're here for you if you need us.
Yeah, fantastic. And Kathy is really a world-class teacher, and I regularly recommend clients to Kathy. So she's my go-to person for that.
Thank you, Pam. So as we begin, you can see on screen, it says a powerful leap forward. And I wanted to have just a second to explain that, and Pam's going to chime in here. For people who are ready to evolve, ready to grow, when you make this kind of a leap, first you make the decision you're going to do it. Second, you put effort into it and you run, and then you make that leap so that you don't fall down into the gulch. And it's a powerful experience. So there are a lot of us who are in that process saying, yes, I am putting effort into growing and evolving, and I'm going to make that jump. Some people are going a little bit more reluctantly, and it's like having a wild tiger chasing you, and you have no choice but to run as fast as you can and to try to survive and get over the gulch. And other people aren't quite ready yet, and it's like having the universal hand come down and give you a big shove. Either way, we're all going to be finding that we make this leap.
Yeah, and the we really are going to be moving in quantum leaps next year. Whatever stage you are at in your soul's journey, this is very discontinuous energy. So that's why it feels so very different to the recent past.
We are very much in a phase change here. And this is an introductory year to a lot of new energies that continue for the next few years. All right, so let's dive in. And we wanted to just do an overview.
Yeah, we'll be looking at hotspots during the year with high growth potential, and Kathy will be very much looking at the personal side of that, and big themes for development, accelerated evolutionary development through 2024.
We're going to be talking also about the fact that outer planets are changing signs, so they're coming to a completion, and this is extremely significant with the anoretic degree being activated. So we're going to cover that. And, that whole concept, again, of experiencing a phase change. This is an important point of history, and it's palpable. It's absolutely palpable. Okay, so Pam, her specialty is applying this to the worldview. This is where her wisdom and expertise shines. This is why she is incredibly well known and popular. And so she's going to be talking about the big picture cycles for humanity. She's going to be talking about the waves of development in history, the completions and beginnings. Pam, this is your area of expertise, and I'm so grateful that you're going to share this with us.
Thank you. And it's so interesting, isn't it, Kathy? We have so many outer planets at the very end of a degree, or the very at the end of a sign, or very beginning. It's so clear: endings, beginnings, endings, beginnings, and that's reinforced over and over again, whichever aspect you look at.
The entire Earth is going to be receiving very strong energies, and not just on an individual level, but the entire planet is going to be evolving.
Yes, absolutely. And my sense is the entire galaxy, actually.
Yeah. And then I'm going to focus on the personal view. I'll bring in what I like to focus on, which is how you take these hot spots, how you take these pockets of energy and integrate them into your own life, how it's going to affect your own attitude, how you can use these energies and be prepared for them. And again, I want to say here that I'm not a big fan of thinking that the planets have all the power. You know, our teacher, Noel Till, big famous astrologer, always used to say, planets don't do things, people do. And so my view, as I talk about the personal view, is going to be focusing on, yeah, we have this energy affecting us. How can we use it? How can we integrate it and flowing with the current and applying the energies to your own chart into everyday life? All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Let's go. In this first slide, let me talk really quick about the personal view for 2024 on the planetary movements. I have created a document for my students called Planetary Waves, and I have this in several pages, several years. I'm just including here 2023 and 2024 so that those of you who are starting to study astrology or who know somewhat about it can get the view of what the planets do every year. Now, this is showing the movement of planets called the planetary wave pattern that goes forward, retrograde, forward, the active degrees every year that are going to be stimulated. So if you know your own chart and you have planets in these zones for 2024, you know that you're going to be activated quite a bit. So I want to explain something though, because people are going to ask. When we look at Saturn, you're going to see every year in the forward, retrograde, forward pattern, Saturn moves 7 degrees. Now, if you look at 2023, you're going to see that in 23, it moved from 0 to 7 Pisces. That's forward, retrograde, forward. And that means that those degrees got hit 3 times by Saturn and a wave of development took place. If you look at 2024, you're going to say, wait a minute, it went 12 to 19 degrees. What happened to degrees 8, 9, 10, and 11? Well, those are called one-hit wonders. And I bring those up because when you get a one-hit wonder from Saturn, meaning it only hits at one time exactly, it's very concentrated and it's very strong. So for those of you who have planets in the mutable modality, which would be Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius, and you have degrees in these zones that are on screen, you're going to have a lot of activation, particularly if you get the one-hit wonder. So for 2024, if you have planets in the mutable signs between 12 and 19, Pisces, Sagittarius, Virgo, or Gemini, you're going to get a lot of development from Saturn. You're going to see Uranus only moves about 4 degrees every year. So for 2024, it's going to move between 23 and 27. You see there's an overlap of 23. So for those of you who have planets at around 23, you get 2 years of Uranus energy. Oh, joy, right? Neptune moves only about 3 degrees per year, 27 through 29 Pisces. And here we see the anoretic degree that we're going to talk about in a moment. And Pluto is still going back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius. It reaches 1 degree Aquarius and change. So I went ahead and put 2 degrees on screen. But those are the active degrees. And if you have planets in modalities, for example, for Uranus, if you have planets in a fixed modality between 23 and 27, and the fixed modality is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, then you're going to receive these energies. So you have to be thinking of the modalities. But this is the big picture planetary view, the active zones. And in a moment here, Pam's going to dive right into this whole Pluto experience that's going on. Did you have anything to add on this, Pam, before we go to the next slide?
I think that's an incredibly helpful chart that people can continually refer back to, Kathy. And thank you for doing that. It's simple, but it's so inspired, and it's an excellent reference. Thank you.
All right. Take it away, Pam.
Yeah, here we go. I mean, for many of us, this is a transit that will last for the rest of our lives, because it really is the beginning of a 21-year transit. Unlike last year, when Pluto only spent 3 months in Aquarius, it's going to spend 9 months. And as of November 19th, 2024, it will be moving into Aquarius for 20 years. This is a very different energy to Capricorn. And I've looked back to historical cycles. Pluto has a 248-year orbit, so it's very slow. And if we look back to the 1200s, the 1500s, the late 1700s, always as Pluto was leaving Capricorn and moving into Aquarius, there was a shift of the power moving from vertical structures top down. In the past, that could have been monarchies, autocratic monarchies, or an autocratic church even, to the power gradually shifting more to the people. So they were elite structures. They were rich people at the top, poor people at the bottom, rich people telling poor people what to do. And as Pluto moved into Aquarius, there was the beginning of a long-term shift of power to the people. And one of my favorite examples, I mean, this wasn't just happening in the American Revolution. The big one was the French Revolution as well. 1789, Pluto was in Aquarius, and Louis XVI was essentially besieged by peasants storming the Bastille. They didn't have enough money to buy bread. 14th of July, 1789, they took down the monarchy. And really from that point, France became a republic. And lots of developments happened, legal developments, Declaration of the Rights of Man within a month of that, and many shifts, both in tax, in economics, many shifts over the years back to the common people. But remember that Pluto had entered Aquarius in 1777. So it took 12 years in that instance for that revolution to happen. Now, I think this is going to happen a great deal faster this time around, because people are much more aware and awake, but it's very revolutionary energy. And there is going to be this huge surge in technological innovation. We're starting to see that already, but Aquarius is very linked to the internet, to science, etc. And we're going to see a lot of innovation in medicine, and a lot of out there, I want to say out there technology, because Aquarius and its ruler Uranus, in myth, Uranus was the sky god, so it's very connected to things like aviation. It was fascinating to me, and many of you may be aware of this, that Google's AI company is called DeepMind. Deep, Pluto, Aquarius, mind. I mean, that couldn't be clearer. And I think we're going to see a huge surge in AI, and that's going to bring opportunities, but also challenges. I also want to say that with every Pluto transit through Aquarius, historically, there has been a greater understanding of the larger cosmos, of the larger universe. Whether it's in 1543, Pluto was in Aquarius, Copernicus published his heliocentric theory. Whether it was in 1781, Pluto was in Aquarius, we had the discovery of Uranus by the telescope, which had been invented by Galileo earlier. But we can only see Saturn with the naked eye, and Uranus was beyond the naked eye, as it were. So every time we've had Pluto in Aquarius, there's been a greater understanding, visibility of the bigger cosmos. And we are going to get that this time, big time, I think, with travel, with space exploration, and with galactic contact too. The last ditch effort, if you like, of Pluto in Capricorn, it retrogrades back into Capricorn on the 2nd of September and is there until November 19th. And it is at the anoretic degree, that 29th degree of Capricorn, the whole of that period, for those kind of almost 3 months. And so that anoretic degree, any anoretic degree of a sign tends to express the more shadow side of a sign. So with Capricorn, top-down power and control, I think there will still be greater attempted power and control by the old order. But it's increasingly hollow because the Aquarius energy, the power of the people, is really gathering steam. Every day I hear of people all over the world setting up new societies, grassroots up, ordinary people, all different backgrounds, ages, it doesn't matter. They are coming together as humanity, buying land, growing food. I heard of another one this morning, a beautiful very old village in Italy that's going to be rebuilt as an eco village and a retreat. Please don't write to me because I don't know the details of the people or the location, but it's that kind of thing which is happening all over the world. And that's really going to gather steam this year and even more next year.
Yeah, let me add one thing about the anoretic degree, and that there is a sense of pressure. This is the pressure point. It's like when coal receives the pressure and then can move into being a diamond. That pressure reveals vulnerabilities and it threatens the old order. And this is why, there's going to be a resurgence or an attempt to retain the old order, but it's not going to help. Now, the other thing about Aquarius is that it's very humanistic. It is connected to the human, connected to mankind, sisterhood, oneness. So this is why the energy spreads out as opposed to stays at the top. And Pluto's design is to empower, ultimately, empower the people in this case.
Kathy,
Thank you,
just
Pam.
one other thing, one other thought. Pluto is this complex process of acting as a catalyst of the symbolism of the sign it's moving through, but also revealing the corruption at the same time. So Pluto moved into a Capricorn in 2008, Capricorn government, but also big business, big banking. Everybody knows 2008, we had the banking crisis, the financial crisis. This time around, Aquarius linked to science and technology, I think Pluto is going to reveal a lot of corruption around science and technology as we move through this year and beyond.
Exactly. This is, and we will talk about this as we go through the month by month. It's a very important cycle. Very, very important. Now, if you look at the image on the screen, we're going to talk about Neptune now. And so there's going to be a different frequency that we connect with, and you might feel it as we talk about it. I chose this image to talk about the Neptune in Pisces transit in 2024, activating the anoretic degree, which is the 29th degree, the last degree of the sign. And it's going to be hitting that anoretic degree starting in May, although you'll feel it prior to that. And it goes all the way till April of 2025 because Neptune changes signs next year in 25. And Neptune in Pisces is connecting us to higher levels, higher dimensions, higher intuition, higher sensitivity. And so that's why I chose this particular image. This is a really, really important phase change. And on the next slide, I'll talk more about that. I'm excited about this Neptune change into Aries in 2025.
Yeah, me too. I think that could represent spiritual leadership, in fact.
Absolutely. On so many levels. Let me talk about on a personal level, as well as a group level, what I think Neptune in Pisces at the anoretic degree is doing. When it entered Pisces, it started activating our awareness of people who are marginalized, people who have been victimized. And it started to activate the need to be compassionate and to be sensitive and to be aware, to have some kind of emotional connection to people who were being bullied or any of that marginalization. So we made necessary adjustments as Neptune has been traveling through Pisces. But sometimes what happens as we approach the anoretic degree is we notice where we may have gone too far, where we may have overcorrected. And there is some of that happening now where sympathy and compassion sometimes go too far. And now we are sometimes terrified of offending somebody. Sometimes we're so aware that we don't want to trigger somebody because you get attacked if you accidentally offend somebody or trigger somebody. So it may have gone a little bit too far. I don't know about you, Pam, but I have Moon in Aries, and there are times when things come out of my mouth that I mean from a very positive, loving intention, but maybe they came out a little wrong. And I think Neptune and Pisces at the last degree needs a correction in understanding if the intention was not to offend or not to trigger, that needs to be accounted for. So we're going to start to see some of that in 2024. One other thing that I have been absolutely focused on is this concept of external locus of control versus internal locus of control. One of my good friends, an astrologer, Fotina Zerps, she is in Florida and she has her doctorate in psychology. And we talk about this. We have discussions about astrology. What happens with Neptune and Pisces is the shadow side activates the victim consciousness. And this is also true in astrology. The planets are doing something to me instead of I'm receiving planetary energy and I can do something with it. External locus of control is when you are giving away your power in a sense and allowing external factors to control your life or to affect you. Internal locus of control is when you retain your inner sense of power and you work with the energies. We're going to be seeing in 2024, I think, with this anoretic degree, more of the nudge to go into the internal locus of control. And that's going to be very strong when Neptune enters Aries in 2025. When we say, wait a minute, I get to affect my life through my thoughts, through my actions. I get to be in control of my own mindset. So we'll have sensitivity and personal empowerment, compassion and empathy for people, and lovingness with boundaries, with empowerment. This is, I think, a very, very important Neptunian change, a collective change that we're going to be experiencing.
Yeah, I really agree, Kathy, because it kind of reinforces the shift of Pluto in Capricorn into Aquarius, because it's shifting away from, we're removing, ideally we are withdrawing the fact that we've deferred to external authorities, Capricorn, and taking back our power ourselves. And it's something I know that you and I both talk about a great deal. And it's almost with Saturn, with Neptune and that last degree of Pisces and moving into Aries, I agree completely with you. It's kind of spiritual sovereignty, a greater sense of spiritual autonomy, and living as a spiritual being with greater intentionality as well as we move.
So be ready for that. Pluto and Neptune activating anoretic degrees, phase changes, pressure to get it right, pressure to clear away vulnerabilities or the shadow side. This can be extremely fascinating. Okay, so now we're going to just quickly, before we go month to month, we're going to talk about a couple of high voltage moments. And I chose this image on screen for a reason, and that is because both of these high voltage moments are dealing with the planet Uranus, and that has to do with electricity. So, Pam, why don't you start talking about these and then I'll chime in.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be huge, particularly, I think, the Jupiter conjunct Uranus, which, so many astrologers are going to be talking about. That's a real high spot in the year. But both of these, as you say, Kathy, are highly electric. And this could manifest in various ways. We could see more seismic activity. And that isn't just at the land level. It could be, it could be financial, because Uranus is still in Taurus. We could see some really radical, shocking changes with digitization of currencies. There could be some shocking truths coming to light. It could manifest in that way. But I think increasingly we are going to get a better understanding of the fact that we are electromagnetic beings and how we interact with our entire ionosphere, our electromagnetic environment in total. What's natural within that ionosphere, what's not natural, how is that affecting every cell in our body? So I think there's a great understanding that will come with this. And of course, Uranus always has the theme of representing the galactic beings. And I think both of these aspects here are going to energize a greater connection or disclosure or news or something around our connection with galactic beings. And we, of course, are all galactic beings. We're all made of stardust, as we know. So they are going to be not stable, not stable periods, but very fast moving and exciting periods to shake up the old and the stale and the deadening.
Exactly. And the other thing about anything having to do with the planet Uranus is it's a wave of freedom energy, the need to be free, the need to get rid of baggage that holds you back and to have the lightness and spirit so that you can move forward with freedom. So that's going to be a wave. And, so we're going to go month to month here in a moment, and we're going to talk about in particular how April stands out this year in so many ways. But with all those two Uranus aspects we talked about in March and April, it's important anytime we have that Uranus activation by either Mars or Jupiter, which is going to happen multiple times, it's important that we learn to connect with nature and connect with the now, because those high voltage electrical moments can leave you feeling buzzed and shaky and fractured. So tuning in with nature, connecting with the earth. I mean, Uranus is in Taurus after all, feeling the energy go down through your feet and into the earth. This is a photo that was taken in a photo shoot that my photographer did with me for my headshots. We were at a state park here in Virginia Beach, and I'm a moss fan, and I saw this mushroom, and she got this great photo. And I think it really illustrates within those moments, if you feel supercharged by the electricity of Uranus and Taurus, ground with nature, connect with the life force that is all around us, and it will help stabilize you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Kathy. And it's something that we both talk about so often. This is going to be a very buzzed up year because Pluto moving into Aquarius, an air sign, Jupiter, as we have here in May, moves into Gemini. This is really high voltage. This is really buzzed up mental energy and with great potential for distraction.
Yes.
Huge potential. So scattering. And again, we give our power away when we scatter our attention. So this is going to be a very important transit in the year. Yes, it's going to be in Jupiter, is going to be in trine to Pluto and Aquarius. And in many ways, that's really beautiful for bringing about a lot of innovations and also a lot of development in ideas, information, and I believe a lot of expansion in communication channels that won't just be different social media platforms. It could even be different internets, which are more censorship free, something like that. But it will give us very much a taste of what's going to happen when Uranus starts to move into Gemini in 2025, because Jupiter and Uranus actually have many parallels. They're both very much to do with freedom, expansion, revolution, as you say, Kathy. It's going to be a super revolutionary year, I think, in 2024. And this feeling of forward propulsion at speed is going to come through very strongly with this transit.
And I chose this image to illustrate Jupiter in Gemini because Gemini deals with our mind and our thinking and gathering information, processing information, analyzing information, sharing information. And our minds can be really supercharged, and it's going to be very important to learn when to stop analyzing, when to stop thinking, and to be. And this is such a contrast with Uranus and Taurus, which is be, present, now. Taurus has that pulse of patience, and Jupiter and Gemini, which is the buzz in the brain. So we're going to talk about this as we go through, but this can be a very big shift in energy.
Yeah, I agree. And finding stillness, dropping into that 0 point, just watching your breath, bare feet on the ground, as you say, Kathy, closing your eyes, watching your breath, have an absolutely simple default method of getting yourself back to center and that point of stillness. That's going to be crucial.
And that goes back to the very first image we had on screen, which is a powerful leap forward. If you are actively saying, I'm ready to make that leap, I'm going to put the effort into it, I'm going to make the decision, I'm going to run and then use my muscles to make the leap. That's part of it. We have to participate with these planetary energies.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through month by month. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this is because I imagine a lot of people are going to be watching this throughout the year to review what's happening this month. And so you can fast forward and you're going to easily be able to find the month that you're interested in as we do this month by month energy. All right, so here we're going to time travel into 2024, and I'm going to start with this page because this is a concept I work with, which is when we have transits from Mercury, Venus, and Mars to our natal chart, particularly to our angles in the chart. The angles, by the way, would be the ascendant, the IC, which if you're using Placidus house cuts, the IC would be the beginning of the fourth house, the descendant, which is opposite the ascendant, and then the midheaven, which is the zenith point. Those angles are the most powerful parts of the chart. In January, we get something interesting. We get Mars, Mercury, and Venus in the same sign. Mars enters January 4th. Mercury enters Capricorn January 13th. Venus enters Capricorn January 23rd. But it's going to be pop, pop, pop for people who have Capricorn angles. And it doesn't matter which angle you might have Capricorn on in your natal chart, you're going to receive a lot of triggers, a lot of activation. And I wanted to make you aware of this because we don't often get those three planets in the same sign in a month, but we're going to have it in January. So you'll have this high trigger activation, meaning whatever's in the background of your life that you're trying to move forward will likely move forward as we go through January into mid-February. Okay, it's very important for your own personal chart. On the world view, let's talk about, I'll let you take this away, Pam, about the two big movement periods in January.
Yeah, massive. You know, this second half of January, absolutely massive. Because, you know, as Kathy just referred to, those Mercury, Mars, Venus are going to be in Capricorn in January, but on the other hand, Pluto is re-entering Aquarius on the 20th, and so we've got again this Capricorn Aquarius, old structures, old systems, top down shift now, quite an energetic shift, which many of us will feel towards the people. But it's just the beginning. Do remember, this is not going to happen in a month, in a year. This is a 21-year transit, but really feel that sense of the power coming back to you. Now, what's interesting is that there was a Jupiter, again, all astrologers were talking about this in December 2020, a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at 0 of Aquarius. And this was really the beginning of a new 800-year cycle, because what happens, that Jupiter and Saturn come together in conjunction reliably every 20 years, but they generally do it for about 200 years in the same element of, you know, water, earth, fire, etc. So this in December 2020 began the beginning of about a 200-year cycle of that conjunction repeating in air, because Aquarius is air. And this conjunction sort of sets up the background, the social, political, economic zeitgeist, if you like, for what's to come over about the next 200 years. Now, that's been a little subdued perhaps since December 2020 because Pluto's been squishing it slightly, if you like, in Capricorn. That is going to be re-energized. Pluto is the activator, the catalyst, where the power lies once it enters re-enters Aquarius on the 20th, and it re-enters with the sun. The sun
Isn't that amazing that that particular day is the day Pluto re-enters Aquarius, the same day as the sun? I mean, there's a statement there.
Yeah, power. This year is going to be about power. And so you and I, Kathy, very much alert people to where does your power lie? Bring it back to you. And then, you know, not only is Pluto re-entering Aquarius, but we also have Uranus moving stationary direct, the last planet in a row to move stationary direct. But whenever a planet becomes stationary in either direction, its symbolism is magnified. So this is going to be a highly electrified period. This, gosh, I barely have vocabulary for the second half of January, because I think a lot of truth is going to come to light. Yes, it's about freedom. Yes, it's about revolution. Yes, it's about shocks and surprises. It's going to be big. Humanitarian issues, yeah. Human rights, big time. Freedom, big time. this sets the stage for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. On my YouTube channel, I have a video about the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. I did that back when it was conjunct in December 2020. I think you have one also on your YouTube channel. One of the things I talked about when I was talking about Jupiter-Saturn conjunct is the fact that we are entering more awareness about how our thoughts and our words create our reality. This is the air sign component. And more awareness about how sound waves affect things. So what you say out loud, the words that you say help to shape your reality. And on a personal level, remember that in January, say what you want, give energy to what you want. That's part of this whole Aquarian dynamic that's coming about.
And that's a real paradigm shift, isn't it? A real
Mm.
paradigm shift of, it's something that, of course, has always been the case, that our thoughts create our reality, but we just haven't been very aware of it as humanity. With Pluto moving into Aquarius, the air sign, the higher mind, we are going to become masters of that.
Well,
and or not, somebody else is going to master it for us.
and again, that goes back to internal locus of control.
Yeah.
I get to affect my reality by my own attitude, by the words, by my beliefs. It goes back to that.
Yeah.
One last thing for February on the personal view on how to apply this in your own life. What is fascinating is if you have been receiving a Pluto transit, if you have planets in your chart that are in the late degrees of a cardinal sign, the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. So if you've been receiving the Pluto transit in 2023 and perhaps also again in 2024, then these little bells, little bell transits from Mercury, Venus, and Mars are going to pop those degrees and create activation and movement forward for you. So Mercury is going to be between 23 and 29 degree of Capricorn from February 1st through 4th. Then Mars follows from the 1st to the 13th. And then February from the 1st to the 16th. The bottom line is this whole month is going to be very active still with people who have planets at late Capricorn or late Cardinal or angles, high trigger activity, January and February. Again, I love it personally when we have Mercury, Venus, and Mars traveling through the same signs because I know that's so much focused activity. So pay attention to that if you have this in your own chart. And then what takes place in February also after these planets hit 29 Capricorn, of course, then they're going to go into Aquarius. And we need to talk about how that is going to be highly active, not only for us personally, but for the world, because they anchor and reinforce and activate these larger cycles. Mercury is going to conjunct Pluto on February 5th. Mars will conjunct Pluto February 14th. Venus conjuncts Pluto February 17th at 0 Aquarius. So two things. If you have planets in early Aquarius or angles in early Aquarius, you're going to get a lot of activation. But these are trigger moments, popping of energy, like kernels of popcorn in the microwave popcorn bag, that start to activate and pop and make a lot of noise. Pam, what are your thoughts on how this is going to activate that whole 0 Aquarius activation?
Yeah, this is going to be amazing because Mars in particular is the planet that activates and energizes. So this is going to really pour power into that more revolutionary energy of the people. I think we're going to see some big, big events happening, really very revolutionary, very much about freedom. And also, I always think of Mars as your individual power, the I am, your individual power, as I think of Pluto very much as a state power. Governments, etc. So this could be, and it sets us up for really a big theme this year of the challenge of the individual versus the greater state. This is going to be, 2024, I think, is a gift that keeps on giving because there is scarcely any let up in the energy as we move through this year. It's so concentrated.
So the first 2 months of 2024 are very jazzy, a lot of activation, a lot of movement. You're going to need to breathe. You're going to need to be grounded. And then we're not done yet with talking about this, because we have to factor in there are no retrograde planets when we get into February and for a few months beyond. And the graphic I chose here with Mars conjunct Pluto, you see this whirling sort of spiritual energy, dimensional energy. Well, that's because it's in the air sign. This is a lot of momentum. Mars conjunct Pluto, forceful, dynamic energy, making a statement, with no retrograde planets, everything's going to move forward very quickly.
Yeah, and I think that there are no retrogrades until about May. So again, we have this feeling of speed and momentum together with Pluto and soon in May, Jupiter moving into Gemini. So there's a speed, there's a lightness, there's a quickness with this, but not necessarily a stability. So that's why you've got to find stability within yourself. Mars conjunct Pluto, I often think as a kind of might makes right aspect, very brutal sometimes and very forceful. So it's going to be again interesting, this clash between the people and the old order, shall we say. And again, this is very potentially seismic activity. I think we're going to see a lot of extreme earth events this year for many reasons. The peak in the solar flare activity, as I understand it, the center of the earth, the molten core of the earth is expanding. I think we're going to see a lot of changes inland as well. And I might pick up on that as we move through. But yeah, powerful period.
Absolutely. Then when we get into March, now we start to get juicy again. And we referred to this earlier. We have the Mars square Uranus. It's going to be at 19 degrees. Mars will be in Aquarius, Uranus in Taurus. This happens on March 9th. And Pam talked about this earlier, potential seismic activity, technological innovation, but more than anything else, it is necessary disruption of the status quo. Mars and Uranus together can be a bit rebellious, can be standing up for your rights, but it's the freedom energy that's flowing.
Yeah. And power outages, cyber attacks, that kind of thing. I think we'll see some genius inventions in technology. I think this could also be a time where there's a big step forward with cryptocurrencies, digital currencies, energizing Uranus in Taurus, money. So we're all aware of the moves towards a centralized digital currency system globally. Remember that Aquarius is decentralized. The direction of travel is decentralized. And I think we may even see ultimately microcurrencies in local areas. So please keep that in mind and use your discernment accordingly in how you react to the changes happening in the world. But yes, absolutely, this is a necessary disruption of the status quo. We might be seeing great innovation in food growing as well. I mean, there's some amazing things happening with people growing food on top of their roofs, and also people using warehouses where they've learnt for optimum plant and vegetable growth, they will use different colored LED lights that particular vegetable responds to most positively. And this kind of, the light Uranus, this kind of understanding of the light and the electromagnetic frequencies, I think will be another big theme in 2024.
And to bring it back to the personal view again, I want to say you have to understand you're going to be receiving this very highly electric, jazzy energy. And you have to learn to breathe and to ground yourself and to stay calm and to form a positive perspective so that you can receive brilliant, innovative ideas personally in your own life. If you want to receive the breakthrough downloads of information that Uranus offers, you have to learn how to relax, how to be calm, how to connect with nature. So as we go into March, be very aware of those skills. I call it spiritual technology, inner technology. Be very aware of activating inner technology so that you can stabilize. Then you can tap the highest level of this for you in your life.
Yeah, really well said, Kathy. And just on that final point about necessary disruption of the status quo, it's interesting. In the end of March, late March, 25th of March, we have a lunar eclipse cycle of closure at 5 of Libra, very close to the US midheaven on that Sibley chart, 4th of July, 1776, Philadelphia, 10 past 5 in the afternoon. So something may occur in the leadership, the government in the US, particularly because we're still under the influence of the US Pluto return. And I think that will be interesting to observe.
Absolutely. Yes. And speaking of eclipses, now we get to, I think, one of the most active months in the whole year, which is April. April just, everything is activated. So we're just going to look at this image for a second, then we're going to go to the next slide and continue talking about it. But there's that total solar eclipse in April, making the pathway over the United States, intersecting, as you see with that star, over Texas, connecting with the same path, the same part of the US that the eclipse in October took. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, and I don't know if Kathy, if you have any idea what this may be about, but Texas being very singled out, are they going to secede from the Union? Is this going to become a major spiritual portal? What's going to happen in Texas? But it's definitely in the crosswires, isn't it? So I think that's going to be fascinating. It's also, I don't know whether this has anything to do with your border issues as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very, because the eclipse path's almost, focused in on that. It's very interesting. Exactly the time, April 8th, of this total solar eclipse, we have Mars conjunct Saturn, which is quite militaristic, quite controlling. So you've got this explosion of a whole new beginning with the total solar eclipse, which is so powerful, and yet at the same time, this apparent clamping down with Mars Saturn.
I do think it's going to have a lot to do here in the US about border, and the issues with the border right now, and the spiritual level of that, but also the necessary controls and boundaries that need to take place from Saturn. So, here with this eclipse going over Texas, activating border issues, we're going to be dealing with how to merge Neptune in Pisces and Saturn in Pisces. Compassion and sensitivity, being expressed to people who are in need, but necessary controls, necessary boundaries from Saturn. And that's a very tricky one to bring about. But I think we're going to be seeing a whole lot of focus, particularly because in the United States, this is a presidential election year. And we're going to be seeing a whole lot of activity with the candidates right around the time of this. And then the Chiron return for the US at the same time.
So well said and fascinating, Kathy, isn't it? Because Neptune represents the refugee, the homeless, the person on the periphery of society, and Saturn, of course, is the necessary rules, regulations, and boundaries. So that's going to be fascinating. And as the chart is suggesting, it isn't just the Chiron return for the US. It's this, that Chiron in its transit is conjunct the solar eclipse at the same time. And so that to me really talks about collective healing from victim consciousness, because I always think of Chiron in Aries as being wounded in the I amness, wounded in the sense of center or individuality. So because a total solar eclipse is a big new beginning, I think this is very propitious, very promising for a widespread collective healing.
And it's going to preview some of the issues that are going to come forward and become very powerful in 25 and beyond when Neptune enters Aries and Saturn enters Aries at the same time. So we need to be very aware of what's happening in April for that larger view. But that's not all that happens in April. We have a Mercury retrograde. And I am not somebody who is afraid of Mercury retrograde. I never promote you have to have a survival guide for Mercury retrograde. It's a 3-week cycle where we can go inward, where we can review, and where we can be extremely productive. I like to mention to people, if you are going to receive a conjunction to a personal planet anywhere in your chart when Mercury is retrograde, this is a very powerful and productive time for you to accomplish a lot, for your thoughts to become clear. So on April 2nd, Mercury goes into the retrograde phase at 27 Aries, which is interesting because as Mercury's retrograde in Aries, it's going to help us process what's happening during that eclipse. It's going to go direct at 15 Aries on April 25th. So the bottom line here is it's going to be slightly activating planets that have been receiving a Pluto transit. If you have planets in your natal chart and you know who you are, who have been receiving a Pluto transit in 23 or 24, to any of your cardinal late degree planets, this Mercury retrograde is going to help you complete it, help you understand it, help you take it to the next level. So again, another layer of April energy.
Really agree with that, Kathy. And just to echo, I was born with Mercury retrograde, and it certainly hasn't stopped me communicating. And
Not at
I,
all.
I think on social media, it's often jinxed. You know, everything's going to go wrong. You know, computer's going to break down, the printer won't work. Is it our beliefs in that? And I know you agree with this very much, Kathy. Is it the beliefs in everything going to go wrong that those things do go wrong? I have always found retrograde periods for Mercury incredibly productive in my life.
Yes. And again, external locus of control or internal locus of control. If you program yourself to believe Mercury retrograde is going to break things or make bad things happen, you build up that tension, you're going to be right about that. You get to choose. Internal locus of control says, how am I going to use this? How can I utilize this energy? Not, is it going to victimize me? But the other big event in April, of course, is this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction at 21 degrees Taurus. What's going to be fascinating is that's exactly my natal Mars. So I get to receive this energy. I'm already programming. It's going to be wonderful because I choose to experience that. I hope if you have planets at 21 Taurus or 21 Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, because then you'll also receive contact by opposition or square. I hope you're already programming that something auspicious and wonderful and expansive will take place personally. But on the worldview, I'll let you take that part.
Yeah, it's exactly on my descendant actually, so that'll be interesting to see what happens there. Breakthroughs in consciousness, I think 2024 in total has great potential for Kundalini activation, because I see that very much as Aquarius and Uranus, and Jupiter is going to expand that at this point. But April could be one of the real high points of Kundalini activation, creating those breakthroughs in consciousness and a whole shift of perception. It's going to be it is going to be, I think, paradigm shattering in so many ways, because this is going to develop the technological side of life in a very big way. It was interesting. I discovered that Google's company DeepMind, which is its AI company, was set up in September 2010 with an exact, pretty much to the minute, Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. If we go back to 2010, 2011, another Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, the Arab Spring. Think of all the revolutions that were happening during the Arab Spring. If we look at, for instance, 1983, there was a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction just before the first Apple Mac computer was launched. Very much about technology computerization. 1903, we have the very first flight by the Wright brothers. Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. July 1969, the moon landing, whatever you think about that, it was implanted in widespread consciousness that that was a breakthrough, and it was paradigm shattering. So these kinds of things, the 14th of July, 1789, the storming of the Bastille, very tight Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. In Leo, the sign of monarchy, royalty, took down the monarchy. So all of this, I think, Jupiter is going to expand both this Kundalini activation, but boom, the wider world, the wider cosmos, our reconnection with galactic beings, and stepping back into our galactic citizenry in a major way, which will absolutely shatter previous paradigms. I think it's going to be the most exciting time of the year in many ways.
I agree. If you do not have planets that will receive this exact contact, please understand you're going to be feeling this energy, and it's going to be very important for you to be aware. Are you relaxed or are you tight? Are you resisting and trying to control, Or are you surrendering into the flow and opening up to adventure and expansion? Your mindset will be very important in April, whether this exactly hits a planet in your chart or not. But it's going to be it's going to be so delicious and fun if you can shift your mindset into receiving it.
Yeah, and Kathy, that's something I said right at the beginning of my themes for
Mhm.
2020. You know, the way we enter 2024 is
Yes.
so important in setting our
Attitude makes a
belief system and our
difference.
absolutely. And you know, if you can't think of anything better, keep rolling that mantra around your head. I'm welcoming in an expanded consciousness of love, because that's
Yes,
what
yes,
this is
yes.
2024.
And the Uranus energy, and one other thing real quick, we focus on the fact that that's happening on April 20th, but it's not just that one day. We're going to be feeling this as it builds in March. It peaks out in April. It's still in play in May. And then we have on May 13th, the Sun conjunct Uranus, which um, is it's going to be an interesting time. Also, this is a time frame where you may be challenging tradition. You may be saying, I want to start a new way of doing things. I don't need to fit in with a group. I can be an individual. I can think for myself. I can challenge what the news is telling me. These are all things that are in play in March, April, May in particular.
Yeah, and I think truth, revelation, shocks and surprises going to be, well, it's going to be rolling through the year, but this is another peak time for that. And I always think when Uranus is activated, it's highlighting something that we have already outgrown. There's
Mhm.
a sense of needing to step into the new, needing to step into this whole new reality, which we barely had any perception of earlier, before
Mhm.
2024. So it's very exciting.
Yes, Uranus demands that we move beyond stagnation and what is stale and what is comfortable. And it demands we get bigger and step outside of our comfort zone. Yeah. But there's more in May. We're going to have then on the 18th, right before the sun goes in, or right before Jupiter enters Gemini, the sun will conjunct Gemini. So first it makes the conjunction to Uranus and then Jupiter. Sun Jupiter conjunction, May 18th. How wonderful is that? Get your mindset into view, think positive at this time, connect with nature because this is still in Taurus. And we may be seeing things in the news at that time too.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful transit, I think. So our connection to nature is going to be so essential, as you so often say, Kathy, as we go through.
Mhm.
Trust nature, trust the earth. That doesn't lie to you, and it
Mhm.
will give you a lot of stability in what's an extremely high vibe year.
Yeah, go hug a tree and connect with the root system that goes down into the earth. Well, and then in May, this is when Jupiter enters Gemini on May 25th. And we talked about this already, but one of the things that I wanted to bring about is as Jupiter enters Gemini, and we talked about the air sign activation with Saturn and Jupiter having been conjunct in Aquarius and then Pluto reactivating it. And again, we talk about the potential for manifesting by using words, by belief systems, by creating energy through sound waves. So your awareness of thinking, connecting to manifesting, it's going to be so easy, but you do need to be responsible for what you say and what you think and what you believe, because this Gemini energy with Jupiter and Pluto and Aquarius is going to take it to the next level. One last thing, and then I'll turn it over to you, Pam. When Jupiter's in Gemini is very much connected to our nervous system, as all air signs are. And Gemini could be very agitating to the nervous system. So you really are going to need to have techniques at your fingertips to soothe and calm your nervous system. And again, those four letters, STOP, the big stop sign in your mind that comes up to say, stop thinking and just breathe or go do something, because you can overcharge your analytical mind at this time.
Yeah, 100% drop out of the head and into the body.
Mhm.
And the potential for distraction, I think, will be extremely high for
Yes.
the 12 months that Jupiter is in Gemini, because Gemini is mutable air.
Mhm.
And of course, Jupiter is going to be reinforced by that trine from Pluto. And so there are going to be so many exciting new ideas, opportunities. Look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. But we're going to just be buzzed out if we just keep jumping from one thing to another. So just have a very strict discipline of bringing yourself back to breath, feet on the ground, whatever you do. But it is going to stimulate the mind enormously. It's going to be a massive period of innovation. But I think this real that Kathy's been talking about here is so true. Part of the paradigm shift is understanding our power as co-creators, which we've never truly understood in our lifetime, or maybe for many, many lifetimes. We've never really got how our emotions and thinking create our reality. We are going to get that big time in 2024, and Jupiter and Gemini is part of that picture.
You know, the other thing I think is going to happen is it's going to change the paradigm somewhat in astrology too, and the
Yeah.
direction of astrology. Now, this is my own personal viewpoint. I don't want to offend anybody. However, this need, the feeling of prediction. You know, the planets are in this position, so I am going to absolutely predict what's going to happen in your life. Gives the power to the planets. And this is going to shift it somewhat and say, how can I use astrology to grow and evolve and take charge of my life, not to surrender my life to the power of the planets? We're going to be seeing a lot of shifting in this in 24 and in 25, I think.
Yeah, totally agree with that, Kathy. And also, just to mention in May, that Mars is in Aries all of May into early June. So that will add to this kind of buzzed up energy that we're going to be feeling through that month.
The warrior energy, for
Yeah.
sure. So now we go into June. We're mid-year now already. And on June 2nd, we have a really beautiful Jupiter trine Pluto at 1 degree Gemini Aquarius. And, you know, trines are very supportive. They're very easy. They're very flowing. And it's going to open up a lot. I'll turn it over to you, Pam.
Yeah, there's going to be so much innovation, which is going to be extremely exciting, and largely up to now, our technology has been external to our body. You know, our computers, whether you look at healing devices like bioresonance machines, which are wonderful, they've largely been external. But I think increasingly we are going to be looking at internal devices
Yes.
potentially. You know, Neuralink is one big obvious one. I mean, they're chips, microchips, which diabetics can use that are implanted in them that regulate their insulin level, which is extremely positive. And for people who've been paralyzed, they can have lucky people can have these microchips in their brain to help them walk again, which is miraculous. I mean, that's wonderful. But this can be a slippery slope of where do you draw the line? Because I think increasingly we're going to be encouraged to have these amazing, miraculous chips, which give us health readings all the time and any deficiencies, blah, 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 blah. But please use your own discernment with this, because on the one hand, they can be miraculous, but on the other hand, are we again in a different form giving away our power to something else that isn't natural and organic?
And for some of those technological innovations, especially in medicine, I think we're still going to be in somewhat of a transitionary period about, do only wealthy people have access to this, or does the average everyday person have access to it? Especially in the United States. You have a different healthcare system in the UK than we do here. But, you know, depending on if you have money or not in the United States, your healthcare is very, very different. So some of these advances, it's going to be interesting to see if the average everyday person on the street gets offered this, or if it's only to the people who are in positions of power. And we're going to be seeing examples of that and speaking out. You know, but the other thing about this trine, at the very bottom on this slide, I have practiced the concept of being a conduit on a personal level. again, it goes back to remember your personal power in your ability to connect with the spiritual internet. The layers and layers and layers of wisdom that all of us can tap into. We can get our own answers. We can activate our intuition. We have that capacity. And with this trine from Jupiter to Pluto, it's again questioning. Don't just believe everything you hear. Question, research it, check it out for yourself. Take back your power.
Yeah, and is there going to be a bit of a split here, Kathy, between the natural and organic versus the synthetic?
Mm-hmm.
I think our discernment and our choices, Gemini
Yes,
choices in that are going to be huge.
absolutely. It's and a big temptation too.
Yeah, and think like a chess player, think long term, think strategically.
Now you're going to see on screen a very powerful image. In July, we're going to have a Mars-Uranus conjunction. And of course, I picked a dramatic image not to create fear, but to illustrate how this energy can manifest. It is very eruptive. It's very hot. It is connected with world activity and Earth activity. We're not absolutely predicting there will be volcanic eruptions, although there could be. But this represents the energy signature of Mars conjunct Uranus. Let's look at the dates. And I'll turn this over to you, Pam, on the world view, because this is really important. I'm sorry. One last thing. Let me say this before I turn it over to you.
Yep.
I wanted to mention in the United States during this presidential election year, I think it is absolutely fascinating that the Republican National Convention, which is where they nominate the candidate, starts on July 15th, the exact day of this. Yeah, it's going to be in Milwaukee. The moon is going to be in Scorpio. Mars will be conjunct Uranus. Mercury and Venus will be in Leo. Isn't it fascinating that the Republican candidate, that convention will be between July 15th and 18th during this very, very volatile, powerful time frame?
Well, that will not go smoothly or perfectly, will it? That's just, I mean, this is very much about it. So it doesn't, as Kathy suggested, it doesn't have to be literal earthquakes. It can be political earthquakes. It can be financial earthquakes. It can be truth coming to light in a very shocking way. And maybe the truth is delayed until round about that very important convention. I think it's also fascinating that this is happening at 26 degrees of Taurus, which is where we have the fixed star Algol, 26 degrees of Taurus. And in myth, the myth attached to Algol is around decapitation, people who lose their heads, literally, and it's very linked to loss in leadership. You think someone is in the leading position and then they are decapitated, not necessarily literally, obviously, but metaphorically. And at the same time, this is slightly earlier in the month, Neptune has just dipped into 0 of Aries, conjunct the USIC in that Sibley chart. This is some kind of dissolution happening. Neptune is therefore opposing the midheaven, the leadership, the government. This is going to be a fascinating time politically for the US, I think. And nothing is going to be predictable, I would say, with so much volatility.
It's very, very volatile. It's very explosive. To use it personally, I would highly recommend in July, you make sure you are getting enough fresh air, sunshine, and exercise. It is phenomenally important that you are at least walking or moving your body to burn off some of the excess electricity from Uranus. And understand that in the month of July, during this Mars-Uranus conjunction, we're all going to be bombarded with reactive energy, the need to fight back, the need to speak up. Some people might get cranky. Some people might be angry and volatile. We don't have to succumb to that, but understand it might be around us. And that's why you have to manage your own energy well.
Yeah, and just one last thing for July, Kathy. Transiting Jupiter is conjunct the US Uranus, which rules the third house. So it's
Yes.
linked to the media, it's linked to communication, it's linked to truth coming out. So again, I think there are going to be a lot of major revelations around this time.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of protesting too.
For sure, because
People
Jupiter's going
protesting, speaking out. We're already seeing some of that now, but around this time, especially in the United States, but not only in the United States. Yeah.
I think we'll see social unrest globally.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we move into August. Now I have to say here in August, we're going to have the Democratic National Convention. And on the next page, we're going to talk about the aspects. And it's so fascinating to me that both political national conventions here in the US are happening exactly when the energy is at a peak period. But for one thing, we're going to have Mars and Jupiter in Gemini all of August, which just, it accelerates mental energy. So again, breathe and ground yourself and make sure you're soothing your nervous system as Mars and Jupiter work together. Because, if you're prone to having an anxious response to stress, if you're prone to getting jittery or tight, take proactive action and start learning how to moderate that with enough exercise, which is in stopping your mind when you need to. But this could be a delightful month on many levels, but that's not all. Let's talk about, there's a Mercury retrograde that happens again in August. August 5th, Mercury begins the retrograde phase at 4 Virgo, which in August of 2023, we had a retrograde in Virgo, but it retrogrades back into Leo on August 28th. And so the Democratic National Convention, which is from August 19th through 22nd, is going to be happening during a Mercury retrograde. It will be in Leo when we have that particular convention. So if you have planets in early Virgo, in between that zone of 21 Leo to 4 Virgo, you're going to be receiving this Mercury retrograde. Take advantage of it. It'll be a highly productive time.
Yeah, I would really agree with that, Kathy. Yeah.
So the other thing in August is the big signature. And again, Democratic National Convention begins August 19th. Look what's on screen happening on August 19th. Jupiter will be square Saturn, Gemini, Pisces, and Mars is going to be very close. Mars will be in Gemini, activating this issue also at this time. So I'll let you explain this Jupiter square Saturn.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier that on the 21st of December 2020, we had the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn that really set up or initiated the 800-year cycle. And when any two planets come together in conjunction, it's like the seeding point. And then the testing point of whatever was initiated then is happening at the first square. So here we have the first square of Jupiter and Saturn. So it was okay. So whatever was initiated at the end of 2020 in terms of a new social zeitgeist being built, how far has that come? And how far have you come in helping to initiate that? I think those are going to be the questions. Looking back, how far and how much more can you do in 2024 as such a powerful year of change? Water, I think, is going to be huge. I think we are just at the beginning of understanding water as living consciousness. And the wisdom, Jupiter of water, Saturn in Pisces linked to water. So I think that's going to be an accelerated time of making leaps in our understanding around the wisdom of water, the intelligence of water, the divinity, I want to say, of water, and how we are just water. We are living crystals, essentially.
There's also this need to understand Saturn related to developing new habits and commitment to those habits. And so as we have this Jupiter square Saturn timeframe, it's going to be very important that you are committed to energizing certain foundational beliefs that you have. And I would highly recommend starting right now that you become aware of what are the foundational beliefs that you hold, that you energize, that help to create your reality. Choose them wisely. One of my foundational beliefs is I'm always at the right place at the right time, and everything works out for me easily. That doesn't guarantee every single time things work out easily, but I hold that belief, I energize it, and I do find out I'm at the right place at the right time over and over and over again. I have many other deep foundational beliefs that are core to my being that I actively energize as often as possible by saying them out loud. I'm saying this because in August, when we have this square, your commitment to your core foundational beliefs will pay off. They will pay off. Hopefully, you have integrated them deeply. Um, this is a really profound time. And by the way, there's a full moon in Aquarius that day, 27-degree Aquarius, which will be activating this on an even more powerful level because it's activating that air energy.
Yeah.
All right. Now we go into September. Very important month. Take it away, Pam.
This is really the last gasp from September 2nd to November 20th of Pluto being back into Capricorn. And it won't re-enter Capricorn until its next cycle, and it's got a 248-year orbit. So this is why this is so important. So it's the last gasp of the old systems, the old world, the old top-down structure. And Pluto is actually, I think I mentioned this earlier, going to be at that 29 degrees, the anoretic degree, from September the 2nd through to November the 20th, over that whole period. So it's just kind of hanging on by a thread. So an analogy I've used in the past is, the theatre scenery is collapsing and the actors are talking more and more loudly to kind of cover the fact the scenery is collapsing all around. So it's going to be louder but more hollow. And I think you're going to see more and more revolutionary power of the people challenges to the old world order, because this really is the last gasp of Pluto in Capricorn. And it feels like those games of they call Junker or Junker, where you've got kind of wooden blocks and you've built this size skyscraper, but somebody's pulling out the bottom blocks and the whole edifice is teetering, and any moment it could crash. It's going to be an incredibly powerful period of shift between the old world and the new. Very revolutionary energy as well. And we also have a lunar eclipse, I think, Kathy, don't we, coming up?
Yeah, I think that's one of the next pages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that time frame as Pluto re-enters Capricorn, it's pressure. And if you have been receiving a Pluto transit to late degree Capricorn or any one of the cardinal planets, again, Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, then this time frame from September 2nd to November 20th, this is a completion cycle. You're going to be feeling it palpably in your body when you integrate and start digesting all the changes that you need to make because of receiving the Pluto transit. So it's a final purge for people with late cardinal planets or angles. It's an integration of necessary endings so that you can move forward. And it's nothing to be afraid of. It's something to look forward to, because the last hit from Pluto by transit is spectacular. This is when it all comes together.
Yeah, I very much agree with that.
And then here's the lunar eclipse. So just focus on that full moon energy for a second. September 17th, a lunar eclipse at 25 Pisces, conjunct Neptune. Oh, so we're going to talk about this together. It says personal view, but it's personal and world view here. Why don't you start off and then I'll add in.
Yeah, this is so powerful around Pisces Neptune energy. Neptune, of course, is the ruler of Pisces. So boy, I think we could see issues around water of all kinds. There could be flooding, it could be literally water, it could be an overwhelm of emotion at this time, and it could open our hearts to compassion, I think, actually. But toxicity is very linked to Neptune. So toxicity in water, toxicity linked to medicines, Neptune, toxicity linked to the media, Neptune, toxicity, the whole thing around a veil of illusion. Neptune, I think, could be very strong around this time, with a lot of deception being revealed. Neptune has a lot to do with sleight of hand and secrets and things not being quite as they seem. but certainly on the other hand, I think, and Kathy will talk about this more, the potential for spiritual connection and shifts in perception of your reality are exquisite, absolutely fine and exquisite at this time.
One of the most important things that I feel like I'm connected to for my own life purpose is to teach people how to activate their own intuition, to teach people how to open and receive and be able to go to the universe to get your answers. We all have that potential. This lunar eclipse in Pisces conjunct Neptune is an incredible pivot point to say, yes, I can do that. Just give me the inner technology so I know how to access it. So the powerful sensitivity and spiritual connection, the ability to activate higher levels of your soul and your intuition will be very important. Back in 2011, I did a 3 DVD set called Activate Your Intuition, which was an educational series. And then I sold all the DVDs and I thought, then we lost the media on our computer system. So I thought, darn, that whole teaching device is down the drain unless we reshoot it. Well, in our last move, I found one last set of DVDs. So I'm going to be converting that from video to audio, and I'm going to be making that available as a teaching device on my website because I think it is so important that people learn the skill of activating their intuition, of knowing how to do it so that you can be free, so that you can get your own answers. This eclipse taking place at 25 Pisces is just going to blast that wide open. So be watching for that and take charge. You are not a victim to having to get information only from the news or being told what to believe. You have the capacity to check it out for yourself
Yeah, and
directly from the divine.
Kathy is a wonderful teacher with all this kind of thing, and I think this will also expose our victimhood from the past, big time.
Yes. Yes, 100%. And to help us find balance, because remember, Saturn is transiting in Neptune or in Pisces, trying to do that, trying to balance all of this. So September is a big month on many levels. And then we have another eclipse coming up in October. I chose this image simply because it's an eclipse in Libra, and Libra about relationship and partnership and people. So October 2nd, solar eclipse at 10 Libra conjunct Mercury. So an eclipse conjunct Mercury is always pretty interesting, especially in an air sign. So why don't you go ahead and describe this?
Yeah, and this is the last eclipse in Libra for another 9 years. So I think this is relationship human to human. I think it's also connected to our relationship to the earth and being in right relationship with the earth, with nature, getting back to this Lemurian concept of oneness, I think will be kind of highlighted around this time. We could see some legal developments because the two signs that are connected to the law are Sagittarius and Libra. And I think what is very interesting here as well is on the let me see, the 17th of October, we have an incredibly strong full moon that is actually a cardinal grand cross involving the sun, the moon, Mars, and Pluto.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which is, I mean, this is like a last ditch battle of, again, where does the power lie? Incredibly strong.
It's a profound period for personal empowerment as well as empowerment of humanity in so many levels. Yeah. And what's fascinating is the eclipse in September in Pisces conjunct Neptune is not objective. That is completely creative and abstract and flowing and dimensional and sensitive. But this eclipse in October in Libra is very objective. It takes it from the body to the mind, to this ability to step back and have that objective, rational communication energy. So they're two very different eclipses. So here we have more activity in October. On October 9th, Jupiter retrograde. at 21 Gemini. So Jupiter will enter Gemini in May and it'll travel all the way to 21. So if you have planets in Gemini, you're going to be receiving that Jupiter energy. Goes retrograde at 21. October 12th, we're going to have Pluto going stationary direct, getting ready to finish in November, that transit in Capricorn. This is, and all month long, Mars is going to be in Cancer. It's slowing down because we're going to have Mars retrograde. It begins a retrograde in Leo in December, but Mars in Cancer is giving motivational energy to our feeling, to caring, to compassion, to mothering. It's a very emotional place for Mars, but this is the caretaking Mars, and that's going to be in the background energy during this time.
And that's very interesting. So Jupiter retrograde, we're going to be going back over what has happened so quickly in terms of social media development, perhaps, and really integrating that more about what feels right to us. But that Pluto station is, this really is crucial because this is the last big push for just another 5 weeks for this entire Pluto transit through Capricorn. And so this is, as I said, the absolute last vapors of Pluto and Capricorn. So it's going to be an incredibly interesting time with also that very powerful full moon, which I've mentioned, at 17th of October. And I believe Mars is also at 29 degrees as well as Pluto at that time. I mean,
and for those of you who follow US politics, this is heading into the election on November 5th for the president. It's going to, I have no words for how interesting this is going to be. I am actively doing my affirmations for divine right action for the highest good of all concerned and blessing the election because it's going to be quite volatile on so many levels.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, agree with all of that. So yes, and a highly activated period as we go into November as well, with that Mars opposite Pluto again, individual power versus state power as I see it, and as Pluto re-enters Aquarius on November 19th, 20th, this could bring about yet another surge of crisis around science and technology and truth as well. I also think it will give another surge to the development of new groups and communities from that point on.
And that Mars opposite Pluto early in the month, that could be another time of major protesting, speaking up, fighting back. It's not a stable time at all. It is rather explosive. It can be very intense. It can also be marshaling your own personal power to make what you need happen in your life. So on a personal level, that can be phenomenal if you harness it. On November 14th, Saturn goes stationary direct at 12-degree Pisces. And that's going to work very much with that Pluto entering Aquarius again. It's this sense of things start to move forward again. All right. So one last thing, the end of November, we're going to have another Mercury retrograde. So if you have planets in Sagittarius, then you are going to receive this Mercury retrograde. It begins November 25th or 6th at 22 Sagittarius, and it will end up going direct in December on the 15th at 6 Sagittarius. And we're currently right now, we are taping this at the very end of December of 2023. Mercury is retrograde in Sagittarius as we speak. So it's going to activate the same thing that's going on right now. If you have planets in Sagittarius, be ready for this. Then as we go into December 7th, Neptune goes stationary direct at 27-degree Pisces.
Yeah, again, we could have a lot around about water, victimhood, toxicity, medicines, media, don't forget, a lot around disillusionment, I would say. The veils falling from our eyes, disillusionment around the way we've conducted our lives, many of us, most of us, up until this point. So I think that's going to be very highlighted, and that will energize stepping into our greater spiritual sovereignty and autonomy. There could be a lot coming up around religion as well at this point, because, not to offend anyone, but in a sense, religion is another top-down structure to which we give away our power. It's another external authority rather than embodying our power. So I think this whole period is going to be very interesting, and I would really see that. Many people are talking about, oh, it's going to be the end of the world. Well, absolutely not. It's going to be the beginning of an amazing world, but it is certainly marking the end of a world and a paradigm through 2020.
Yes. And I think at this point, when we get to December of 2024, we're going to be very tired of walking on eggshells, trying to protect other people's feelings. Now, I have great compassion for people, and I don't want to hurt people's feelings at all, but I want to be genuine and be who I am. And I want to remember that the other person is capable and strong, not so fragile that one word I say may make them crumble. That I want to remember they are strong and capable and powerful people. And I think when we get to the end of 2024, we're going to be wanting to feel that and not having to be ultra careful about how we express ourselves. But I think at the same time, we're going to be very, very committed to experiencing the highest level of compassion and lovingness and oneness with each other and acceptance of each other. So there are some positive aspects to this, and the creativity potential is just magnificent.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, this is highly intuitive, highly connected. Healing abilities might come forward in a stronger way. I think we really are going to discover as we go through this year what may be considered at the moment superhuman gifts and skills. We're going to be remembering those. They're going to be activated.
Inner technology, the spiritual technology that exists within us all, could be very much unleashed in 2024 as Neptune hits that anoretic degree. Yeah. Mars is going to enter a retrograde in early December. It's going to begin the retrograde at 6 Leo, and it'll turn direct in February of 2025, on February 25th of 2025. So it'll begin in Leo, it'll retrograde back into Cancer. And that's going to be important if you have planets between 17 Cancer and 6 Leo. If you do, you're going to be receiving this long Mars retrograde, and that's a very potent period for personal growth. Do you have anything to add on the worldview on that Mars retrograde?
No, I think you've covered it there, Kathy, really well.
Mm-hmm. I always look forward to Mars retrograde because it is how you use Mars that makes all the difference in the world. And then all month, Pluto's last activation of 0-degree Aquarius in December before it moves on and starts advancing in degrees. Again, that trigger for the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And as Pam likes to say, advancing the new Earth structures very wisely.
Yeah, and we're going to see that so much more clearly in 2025. We already are seeing the green shoots 2023, even more 24 very clearly in 2025. That's where the astrological energy is going. That's where the life force is going for our human evolution.
Yes. Hold your vision as you go through 2024, because there will be pressure points with those anoretic degrees from Pluto and Neptune. There will be pressure points, and then the Uranus conjunction that takes place. But hold your vision to something higher. Believe in humanity and believe in this evolutionary pattern that's taking place in the world. Oh my gosh, we've finished the year.
Wow.
Ah, a powerful leap forward. Make a decision. Are you going to actively jump that cliff and put forth the effort and with great delight say, yes, I want to move forward? Or you're going to be chased by a tiger and be forced to do it in emergency status, or you're going to get shoved by the universe? Either way, we're going to make a leap. We get to choose how we do it.
Yeah, and your frequency is everything. Everything cascades from your frequency as a co-creator. So just keep rolling that mantra around your head. I'm welcoming in an expanded consciousness of love, and that will guide you onto the right path.
Mm-hmm. and I am up to the task. Create those foundational beliefs and energize them. Well, Pam, thank you so much for sharing the year with me.
I've loved it. It's been great, actually. It's felt really exciting. I think we've kind of started to get into the energy of 2024, and it really is so different. And it's been thrilling to do this with you, Kathy. Thank you.
All right. So bye, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you as we go through the year in all the videos that Pam offers and the videos that I offer, and many, many blessings being sent out.
Lots of love, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.